In the middle of a foggy swamp, hidden from the world, a shady operation is underway. Inside a worn-down building, workers are busy producing an illegal drug, but before they can finish, chaos erupts. A DEA strike team storms in, guns blazing. Bullets fly, people scream, and in the panic, one worker knocks over a large container of chemicals. The toxic liquid spills across the floor, slipping outside and draining into the nearby river. Unknowingly, these chemicals are absorbed by the swamp's alligators. And from that moment on, they change. Cut to a biology classroom. Here we meet our main character, Kyle, a bright student with a deep interest in nature. On the screen during the lecture, a projection of an apex predator, an alligator, foreshadowing what's to come. After class, Kyle meets her close friend Alice. They're preparing for a personal trip to scatter her late brother Jamie's ashes. But as they meet the rest of the group, Malika and Sam, Kyle's mood shifts. She clearly doesn't like them, and we'll soon learn why. The group arrives at a hotel and spends time at the pool. While Malika goes off to grab drinks, Alice gently tells Kyle it's time to move on from her brother's death. But this hits a nerve. Kyle snaps, saying people need to stop telling her how to grieve. Alone, Kyle watches an old video of Jamie. In it, he encourages her to live boldly and even invites her to try his motorcycle. A brief flashback, but it's enough to show just how close they were. The next morning, Malika blasts everyone awake with a megaphone. Their road trip continues. At a gas station, Kyle notices newspapers warning about recent gator attacks. Then she hears strange laughter. She follows the sound and finds an old man rambling about a giant gator with a scar on its face. A bad omen. Soon, the group arrives at a private airstrip. Kyle is surprised and clearly uncomfortable when she learns they're taking a private plane. Malika had planned this without telling her, fully ignoring Kyle's fear of flying. Then things get worse. Their pilot, Frank, is drunk and reckless. He even lights a cigarette next to fuel. Still, out of sheer pettiness and frustration, Kyle agrees to go along with the flight. On board, a businessman named Rufus refuses to turn off his phone. Another passenger argues with him, but suddenly, the plane begins to fail. The engine sputters. Warning lights flash. Frank is forced to crash land. And where do they land? Right back in the swamp from earlier. The crash is violent, but most survive. One woman, Zoe, suffers a serious hand injury. Another, Ma, has just lost her husband. And the co-pilot, Ray, is missing. Kyle, keeping her cool, quickly helps Frank perform first aid on Zoe using Sam's belt to make a tourniquet. They call out for Ray, no response. Alice suggests waiting for rescue, but Frank tells them the harsh truth. The flight was off the books. No one even knows they were in the air, which means no one is coming to save them. After a long debate, they decide to move north on foot. As they gather supplies, Alice wanders off alone and finds a nest of alligator eggs. She takes some, an act that will come back to haunt her. Meanwhile, the rest spot Ray floating in the river. Frank, Kyle, and Sam rush to help. But before they reach him, a gator bursts out and rips him apart. Shaken, Kyle urges everyone to move fast. We then see the egg nest again, now with only one egg left. Night falls. The group sets up camp because Ma is too tired to go on. Malika makes a rude comment about her weight, then mocks Kyle for taking charge. But the group stands behind Kyle. She knows this land better than anyone. That night, Rufus sneaks away to relieve himself. His phone rings, but as he bends to pick it up, an alligator lunges from the shadows, crushing his skull. The next morning, the group finds what's left of him. Kyle notes that these gators aren't acting normally. Frank confirms, something's wrong. They're more aggressive than ever. One, in particular, is feared throughout the region, a massive gator with a scar on its face, known as Christina. Just then, they spot a distant cabin. It's elevated and secure, possibly their only hope. But before they can get far, a group of alligators block their path. Then suddenly Ma is snatched away. The others run. Zoe gets bitten just before making it to the cabin. Inside, they struggle to shut the door as the reptile slams into it. While they all push against it, Malika randomly starts kicking a wall for reasons no one can explain. Eventually, the monsters retreat. That night, Kyle has a vivid nightmare. We finally see what happened to her brother Jamie. He died trying to stop a gas station robbery, shot by the criminals he tried to stop. And Kyle's fight for survival has only just begun. The next day, Sam shows Kyle a map he found inside the cabin. It marks a building just 4 miles away. But there's one catch: they'll have to cross a river to reach it. Malika protests immediately. She wants to stay in the cabin, claiming it's safer. But Kyle stands firm. They have no food, no working communication devices, and Zoe needs urgent medical attention. Staying isn't an option. Instead of helping, Malika stirs up personal drama. She blames Kyle for Jamie's death and even tries to take his ashes. Frank quickly steps in, telling everyone to leave personal issues behind. He calls for a vote. The group sides with Kyle. They'll move out. Before leaving, Kyle gives them a crash course on how to survive a gator attack. On the way, Zoe nearly collapses from exhaustion. Her boyfriend Dom motivates her to keep going, while Malikika heartlessly suggests they leave her behind. Once they reach the river, Kyle comes up with a wild but clever idea: build a raft. They just need to move fast. Malikika complains, but the rest of the group backs Kyle. Everyone starts gathering wood. While they work, Alice senses something nearby. Stick in hand, she creeps toward the threat and comes face to face with a gator. She attacks first and miraculously survives, returning just as the raft is finished. As everyone boards the raft, Sam runs back to grab the bag containing Jamie's ashes. That's when two gators show up, heading straight for them. Tension rises. Zoe, quiet and distant, turns to Dom. With a soft smile, she says, "I love you," as if it's the last time. Then she jumps into the river. Zoe sacrifices herself, drawing the gators away and giving the others a chance to escape. Dom is frozen, crushed by her final act. The group continues in silence, the mood heavy. Eventually, they reach their destination, the same building from the film's opening. But this time, it's abandoned. Inside, Frank sees bullet casings on the floor. He warns the others to stay alert. Someone or something might still be here. Of course, Malikika doesn't listen. She yells into the darkness, unknowingly waking up the alligators sleeping inside. As the group explores deeper into the facility, they find blood trails, suggesting something terrible happened here, beyond just a raid. Frank then suggests they split up. Suspiciously, he places Malikika and Alice in his group. A little later, he separates further, sending Alice away to explore alone, so he can confront Malikika in private. Meanwhile, Dom, Kyle, and Sam stumble across a room filled with strange chemicals. Kyle connects the dots. The gators must have ingested this stuff. That's why they're acting like monsters. They also find a wounded worker, barely alive. Back to Frank, he finally snaps. He tells Malikika he's seen people like her during war, selfish, manipulative, always betraying others. Then he throws her over the railing. But Malikika manages to grab onto a steel bar and begs for her life. She promises to change, though it's clear she's only saying that to survive. Elsewhere, Kyle tries to speak to the injured worker, but he dies before he can explain anything. Alice returns and Kyle immediately asks where Frank and Malikika are. Back on the catwalk, Frank hesitates. Just as he questions what he's done, a massive gator appears. It leaps up and devours Frank in one brutal bite. The others arrive just in time to save Malikika. Through tears, she apologizes to Kyle, finally admitting she misses Jamie too. Maybe, just maybe, she'll stop being the worst. The group continues deeper into the factory. But suddenly, the doors slam shut behind them. No turning back now. Dom flips a light switch, and they freeze. Ahead of them lie several sleeping alligators. Kyle spots a door on the far end. She whispers the plan: move quietly. She leads by example, tiptoeing across and making it through. Dom follows successfully. Kyle rushes to check a radio in the room, hoping they can call for help. But Sam, in classic horror fashion, trips on a twig. The thud wakes the biggest gator in the room. It lunges and rips off Sam's head in one horrifying snap. Right after this gruesome moment, the radio finally kicks in. Kyle frantically calls for help. She can't share their exact location, but the responder assures her they'll find a way. Before she can say more, the power goes out. Grabbing any weapon she can find, Kyle joins the others in the next room, only to come face to face with the queen of the swamp, the giant scar-faced gator, Christina. Alice, for some reason, pulls out the egg she stole and holds it up, thinking it'll calm the beast. It doesn't. Christina chomps down on Alice's arm. Kyle panics and drops her gun instead of shooting. Only after Alice is tossed aside does she finally fire, but with her eyes closed. Miraculously, she hits the gator. Malikika and Dom help Alice while Kyle keeps shooting, but she misses over and over. Eventually, the others escape, but Kyle stays behind with Christina. As the gator charges, Kyle dives for a machete, stabs Christina in the eye, and gets thrown across the room. She quickly douses the floor with flammable chemicals, lights a match, and sets everything on fire, cooking the beast alive. The others watch from the doorway as Christina burns. Outside, a helicopter finally arrives. Sometime later, Kyle stands alone, scattering her brother's ashes. She then gets on a motorcycle, finally overcoming her fear. A quiet moment of peace. But then the final scene. Back in the burnt factory, Frank is somehow still alive. He begins to laugh maniacally. Did he plan all this? We may never know. So that's it. Hope you enjoy the story. Subscribe and press the bell icon for more videos.